Yeah.
Order. I always wanted to do this. Right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to our 2nd January planning committee meeting. We'll start off with apologies for absence. The only apology for absence is from Councillor Davis. We accept Councillor Davis's apologies.
Absolutely.
He's on mend. Representations from interested parties, there are none. Any declarations of interest? Firstly, disclosing pecuniary interests.
I've got some idea what they are, but
Then I think you have another interest to declare. After
I work there on the school. Just a couple.
I'm glad you told us. Comes as a complete surprise. Right.
What do you say?
Minutes of the extraordinary planning committee meeting we had on the 7th of January have been circulated. Present were myself, Councillor Chesser, Councillor Clark, Councillor Fuller and Councillor Shearer. Sounds like something right, but with an addition of Councillor Wade as well. Does somebody want to propose those minutes? Councillor Fuller, the second one? Councillor Shearer, I think just.
It's not a competition.
There we go. Right, that will enable us to move swiftly on to planning applications. A motley bunch they are too. It starts with an old friend. There is an island, the river. On the island and the river, there is a narrowboat. The narrowboat is moored to what is described, I think, as a floating mooring, and there is also a permanent mooring. An application has gone in for planning permission, ostensibly for change of use for those things, and on a retrospective basis, and at least that's what it looks like when you first look at the paperwork. In practical terms, the applicant maintains that the reason for the application is simply to enable him to obtain a postcode for the address. He having been told by the relevant officer at NNC that without an application for planning permission, the narrowboat and its mooring can't get a postcode, although I believe that the island does have one, according to the design and access statement. They have given some details in the report with regard to the actual site and development. Only a couple of comments on the portal when I looked. One from Nature Space, one from Environmental Protection, neither of whom wanted to offer any comments at all. We have had occasion to look at this site twice. Once was to do with a plan to put a tool store and workshop on the island, which we didn't object to, but NNC decided to refuse it. And then there was an application for a certificate of lawfulness in relation to these two platforms, which was refused by NNC. Presumably therefore leading to this application, since I assumed that he got his certificate of lawfulness, we wouldn't have heard any more. So there we have it. Now, retrospective applications we always deplore anyway. If it did need planning permission to go there, and it looks as if it probably did, then it should have been applied for. He says it's been there since the 1st of September 2020, which means that by the time of the application, it had already been up for 4 years, which in planning terms might leave the planners with some difficulty in trying to take any enforcement action against it for having been done without planning permission. But in any event, here we have this application. So I guess the thing really for us to think about is, well, if this application had come before us at the time that this applicant wanted to construct it, would we have said that we object for some reason, or would we have not objected? Councillors? Thoughts?
My first thought is, can we just establish exactly where we're talking about? Because the description in the notes, I think is a little confusing. I know from walking along the bank of the River Nene, there is a boat, which is, well, I can point it at where on my map, that's kind of about here. Where the floating bit is clearly on the land adjacent here. My concern is that if it's what I think it is, no, it's further up, sorry, it's actually opposite, it's near that path there. It's actually about there.
Where is it roughly?
Sorry?
Where is it roughly on the rail? I know.
My concern is that if we allow that, what's going to stop future applications having no end of boats being moored along there? And in terms of planning application, they've also erected a set of solar panels in the field, and various other bits and pieces. I think there's a little hut there as well. So it goes rather beyond the boat itself, and I just want to establish, is that what we're talking about? Because that doesn't quite fit the description about it being off this island, which is slightly further down.
Yeah, the description, I confess, I took from the design and access statement.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Rather than, as it were, coming up with it, at the moment.
It's not shown on Google Earth because obviously the Google Earth map is rather older. But where I remember it, because there's this pathway that comes down here, there's a hard pathway, because there's invariably a car park there as well. And they clearly come down this pathway, and it's just towards the end of that pathway. There, and you need to go up a bit.
Is this around the Dragon Wheel place?
Yeah,
a bit
that's
further
the
down
pathway
there.
to it.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
That's the idea.
That's the idea.
Yeah, see this halfway here,
So which
it's towards the end of
It's
that.
recently put a load of hardcore down there as well to make it more accessible, because it used to be very potholey and not very good for vehicles, and we noticed when we walked.
Councillor Chess.
Well, one thing is like Topsy, it's grown, clearly, a lot. And two, I agree with you, Councillor, because it's the thin end of the wedge.
Yeah,
As we say, anybody could just go down there now and park and have a small little something there that nobody notices, and then let it expand.
yeah, you need, if I can show you,
Yeah, I know, yeah.
if you go further up,
That way, yeah.
Yeah,
this way. So
that's
you've
it.
got, I think if I'm right, there's this hard
You've got
That's
the,
right.
thing here.
yeah.
And if I'm correct, I think it's actually currently about there. I might be wrong, but I know there's this pathway that goes across the field. If you go further, back where you were, and then back where you were.
I think it's on this side though, isn't it?
Well, that's why I'm trying to,
Because that's the path to it there.
well, indeed, but there's also a boat on this side, that's my concern. That's why I'm concerned about what we're actually talking about.
So, yeah, the flood risk assessment says it's on that island there.
There,
Just down south.
What is it?
About there.
yeah.
I think that's the island that one is being talked about, and that is private property.
Yeah, that seems to be owned by the applicant, Mr. Nash. He says it is owned by the applicant.
Yeah, in which case we might be talking about an entirely different situation, and that's what bothers me. I'm just not entirely sure what it is that we're talking about. So I'm going to shut up now.
I can't remember, is there a location plan that actually helps? I don't think there is.
Yeah, it's on the flood risk assessment there. So he's got a picture of, whoops, there's some location on that island.
So it's on the south side,
Yeah.
It's on the east side.
Yes.
And then that's the island, and that's the,
Yeah, so that's a completely different boat from the one that's currently there.
Councillor Brewer.
we know what the boundaries between Arundel and Ashton are like, they're a bit funny at times. But, is this Ashton or is this Arundel Town?
It's on,
It's definitely,
the boundary goes down the River Nene,
so it's on the other side of that.
which is actually, it's basically the boundary is the middle of the river
Yeah,
on the east side of that island.
yeah, I'm with you.
Actually, it's
So it's on the outside of the island.
Yeah.
It's, the island belongs to Arundel. Well, that's fair.
The island is in that parish.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yes, I don't know if this has been brought to the attention of Ashton or not, but of course they don't have a, regulation system. I think they have a parish meeting, if I remember right. And I must admit, I tend to share that level of concern as to whether or not, if this were to get permission, we're going to see war. Just before we started the meeting, I was trying to clarify with Lisa whether this was actually related to a different,
Yeah,
as it were, narrowboat on the river, which I gather it doesn't, which is the one we objected to some time ago in unfortunate enforcement. Things seem to be mired in enforcement now, but it's not that one. Is it something different again? That's a problem.
I don't know, is it something that I think we don't object to the actual, what they want to do. We object to the future things that could happen. So is it something that we can give permission to do, but with limitations of what can be done in the future?
I mean, yes, one could, I suppose, say no objection, but however,
Couldn't enforce it.
I feel that it's
It's like
a
that.
little bit like watching the ladies' tennis from Australia, where the losing finalists said that nobody remembers the finalist, only the winner.
Yes,
And I rather fear that nobody would remember the qualification, they'll only see the no objection bit.
it's just a thought.
I mean, it may be that the strongest way of registering our concern would be to lodge an objection to it. That will at least hopefully make the planners take, as it were, a look at it. They may very well take a different view of the situation. But the fact of the matter is that, I to take it back to, if we were looking at this in 2020 prior to its construction, would we have been happy with it?
No.
And I suspect the answer to that is, as Councillor Chester says, probably not. In effect, turning the immunity of the river into a semi-residential area, because by putting residential narrowboats in there, that's what we'll effectively do.
And it's not meant for that, it's,
I mean, okay.
No.
Well, I mean, we're not looking at boats, holiday boats that just come and moor one night and move on, are we? This is a permanent residential situation.
Yes, very much so. I mean, hence his desire, presumably, to get a postal code,
Yeah,
getting his mail easier. The fact that, as Lisa's told us, hardcore's been put down on the access road, the fact that there is possibly cars parked there And so all suggests
Predetermination.
that this is very much a residential development on the island on the river.
Oh, is that it?
I think we're in danger of tangling two separate issues together. And again, I'm going to look at the map. So, irrespective of this retrospective, so this stretch of the river, you can't walk along. This is a private island. You can't gain access to it apart from this private road here. The public footpath goes along this bit of the river. The public cannot walk along here. And I don't think the public could very easily moor additional boats there, certainly without the permission of the private landowner here. So what I'm trying to say is that if it is on this side, I don't think we can object. When I say we're tangling issues together, that anything down here we would object to, because that is a public footpath, and anything along there butts onto the public footpath. You now actually, the way the footpath goes, because of the boat there, you actually have to walk around it, because they've stuck various things up here. So, again, what I'm trying to say is that I think we're tangling two things together. I wouldn't object to a boat there, given that that belongs to a private owner, and that's not public access anyway. But I would object to anything where there's public access.
I think I found the boat. It's there.
Is that on Google Earth?
No, it's Apple Maps.
Michael, yeah, that could well be it.
Because it's literally just below that building that you see. And then you've got the weird thing.
So you're talking about
It's
here.
just down.
It's on the other side, yeah, it's just up, move up a bit and it's higher than your finger, but that's where there's a boat moored very close to that building thing.
Yeah.
It shows on the
And
side.
that's why I say we're tangling two things, because that's very much next
On
to
the
private
side.
land, so not next to a public footpath.
I think that supposing the owner of said private land decides to more free to those things all the way down that arm and hire
Well, there is that.
like, in effect, quasi-holiday cottages.
I think you're wrong, Max, because I don't think that even the private owner of the land could presume to just, that the rivers is. I mean, there's a separate river authority regard the river as an amenity, if you like. So, otherwise there'll be boats all over the place.
Yeah, it's a bit of a tangled web.
It's like that house that's built on the river further down,
Yeah.
the floating house. Which I think is hilarious.
Just on that point, the Environment Agency haven't raised any concerns, have they? Their flood risk assessment seems fairly fluid or positive.
I haven't seen anything from them. It's NNC Environmental Protection, which is not the same as the Environment Agency. My recollection is, although I realise it's not in my note, I think that somewhere in the design and access statement, there was something in there about some sort of permission having been given by the Environment Agency.
Yeah, attachment 2 has got a letter from them. The other point is they made the point that it's not a navigable stretch to the river.
Which
Yes.
is what Max was saying.
Yeah, well, no, in terms of boats,
Yeah.
because of the wind.
Yes, it's not going to be an obstruction to the river per se, for the reason Councillor Clark says. I think the feeling we're in danger of going round in
Circles.
somewhat circular fashion, and maybe the only answer here is to literally go around the room and say, well, do you object or do you not object? Everybody happy that we take that approach?
Yeah.
In which case, I will start my left.
Well, I think we object particularly on the grounds of the fact that it's retrospective and yet they've gone on still acting on the site, and two, that it's a thin end of the wedge.
Sorry, two, what was the second?
end of the wedge.
There's
We
more.
might need to put it in slightly different way in terms of the objection, but you know where you
Creates a
create it.
precedent.
Yes, precedent, yes,
It does.
yes, but
I think for exactly the same reasons I would take the same position. That's for sure.
Yes, of a similar rate. And I think we should further investigate the boat that's on the other bit of the river.
Oh, you mean the,
Right. That's the way.
I would agree.
I can't hear.
Sorry, I agree. The worrying thing is precedent.
Yeah,
Councillor Clark?
I don't object at the moment, partly because it sounds as if NMC are taking council tax on the property. And if they've been taking council tax for the last 5 years, then presumably they think it's all right, but that's my opinion.
Councillor Fuller?
I'm sort of split, but I will, it's 50-50, but I'm going to object. Well, it's 55 splits and 45.
There's a clear indication that we should object, so if councillors are happy for me to try and reflect that in something which I'll write for this.
Best of luck, Chair.
Yeah, I think that'll be the most straightforward thing I've ever done. Right,
Very interesting stuff.
it is very, very difficult to find out much about premises license applications, but if you use Google long enough in a sort of wide range now, you could at least get what the applicant is seeking. It's permission to open between 11 a.m. and 11 p.m. Mondays to Thursdays, 11 a.m. to midnight on Fridays and Saturdays, and from 12 noon to 10 p.m. on Sundays. So 7-day opening until 11 most of the time. This is obviously part of the planned new restaurant in the old post office building.
Yeah.
I suspect, because if I remember rightly, we didn't object in principle to the application for change of use, etc. When that came before us, it would seem slightly odd on one level to say, well, not licensed at all. So I think it's more a question of the hours. Now, looking at those hours, I suspect that they are relatively common opening hours for licensed restaurants anywhere in town. And so I suspect that even if we were concerned about the possible impact in the centre of town or a place where people could drink until that hour, my guess is actually it could get its licence anyway, but does anybody have a firm view one way or t'other?
Well, I'm happy to oppose it.
Yeah,
well, I've got a firm view. A good restaurant wouldn't be a bad thing. And
Yeah.
they wouldn't really have a hope of, in the present age, I don't think, they wouldn't really have a very strong reason to survive, if you like, if they didn't have a licence.
Yeah.
Would be
You're
my view.
right.
I don't think it's no different to, a little different to the toilet and Rose and Crown.
Exactly.
If they can manage it.
Yes.
Councillor Shaw, then Councillor.
Well, with that in mind, it's really about ensuring continuity or complementarity. I just wonder whether the Talbot, and for that matter Dexter's, which of course is relatively close by, do actually have a licence until midnight on Fridays and Saturdays, as opposed to 11 o'clock. And my concern would be if we grant one to midnight and the others are ready till 11 o'clock, then again we set the precedent. And we might be treating one slightly unfairly in relation to the others. But I'm only saying that, I have no idea off the top of my head what the Talbot or the Dexter's licensing or
Dexter's
Friday,
open
Saturday
till
might
Dexter's only open till 10 anyway. 10 on a Saturday, 10 Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, closed on a Monday,
But
closed at
it's
3
a
hours.
question of their licence, isn't it?
Mm.
What they licensed.
be. Yeah.
Yes, we may be licensed and not in fact choosing to open.
Oh, I see, right.
But it's a valid point, Mr. Sugar, it seems to me, particularly bearing in mind that Talbot is on the next door property.
Absolutely, they may not be very happy if the licence is granted.
So I think that maybe our response would be that we support the venture. We want it to have a licence, provided that the licence doesn't allow it to open for longer than the immediately neighbouring licensed premises, we would be happy, but we would want the two to be in line with each other.
That's essentially what I'm saying, yes.
I'm slightly slightly different view, which is that there may be aiming for different markets, and I don't think it's up to the council to determine what a business's strategy is. I think if the Talbot or Dexter's or Virgin Crown thought that they would ship, thought they should look at licensing across,
Take it on.
that's fine. If, for example, they're not doing this, but for example, if there were to be a nightclub open, would we say you can have a nightclub until 10 o'clock because that's when Dexter shuts? It just seems absurd to me that we limit one business because another business may have shorter licensing hours. So I don't object, and I wouldn't want to object on the basis that others don't, so why should they?
I do concur, because their business model is probably based on their opening hours, and the Talbot, the pub opens all the time, doesn't it? For those residents.
Seems to be better.
What time is it closed, you know? What, the restaurant? And the pub, yeah. Well, they,
That's a couple.
It strikes me the key word is parity, and I think we can't run businesses, but I think we've also got to be aware that there's an awful lot of residents who live around that area who are already annoyed, affected by noise from the various pubs, etc. And if this were a later licence than pre-existing ones, that would seem that we're doing them a disservice. So I think we need to, and we won't, the licensing officer will do it and do anyhow, but I think we should suggest parity out of concern for local residents.
Talbot closes at 11.
Well, the licence and when it closes is a different thing.
No, it's in the,
Because they will be licensed and they'll get extended licenses, but I bet some of them are only licensed till 11.
Yeah. So there seems to be two possible approaches. One to simply say we don't object, and the other to say that whilst we don't object, we wouldn't want this to stay, to be able to stay open longer than, in essence, an immediately neighbouring licensed premises. There seems to be two different approaches there. And so, following that against
I mean, if they change Fridays and Saturdays to 11 to 11, I suspect most people will be happy. I'm happy with it anyway, but I think that will bring it in line with Talbot next door.
Councillor Jensen.
I don't think we can limit it. I mean, the laws are there to limit it anyway, to be honest. And I think you've got to have, somebody said, the business model, including the licensing, has got to fit the actual trading model, if you like.
I think I like the idea of comparability, and I do worry about having extra noise in that part of town, at the week, well, effectively at the weekends, until midnight. It may well be that, I simply don't know, it may well be that Talbot already has a licence till 12, in which case, fine, don't have a problem. But I can imagine if we agree to this, and Talbot will then come back and say, well, we want the licence till 12 as well. That's all I'm saying. I guess this is a red herring because I hadn't realised it closed quite so early on a Saturday.
Well, it's like all of them, if they're net the business, they won't open.
What about
Well, you've got, there's 20 or 30 flats within
Yeah,
50 metres.
And the Rose and Crown is presumably until 11 on Friday, Saturday.
well, sure.
Well, I guess if you live in a town, don't
You
you
expect
expect,
a little
Yeah.
bit.
I mean,
I think,
I don't think we do. I think if you move into a town and a nightclub opens till 2 in the morning, you've got reasonable reasons to say that's not why I moved into the town. We need to be aware that this idea of extending licensing due to the back of businesses might be the thin end of a wedge for other possible bills around the town.
The Rose and Crown is open till midnight on a Friday and a Saturday.
there you go. So
Closes
that's,
at 11
there's
the
your
rest of the
answer.
week.
And I know,
It's the same hours that have been proposed here.
two people that were left down because of that.
But if you've already got a business with it, it would be,
Yeah, so
incorrect to
there's
say that.
parity, that's fine.
Okay,
it's fine, actually.
thank you for that, Lisa.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's helpful because it does become more difficult to argue if another location within a relatively short distance, probably
It's like,
impacting many of the residents that
I suspect they
Mark's talking about, has the permission to open to that time, then I think it becomes more difficult to say
So
no.
in fact, they're closing on a Sunday an hour earlier than the Rose and Crown. So they're open till 11 on Sunday.
Well, we've got that.
So this is an hour earlier as well.
There you go.
And you can see, in a sense, why, because restaurants just don't tend to stay open as late as pubs do. I think that probably actually makes me inclined towards the straight no objection as opposed to anything else. I'm going to say that. I think I get the feeling that probably is at least 4 who are saying no objection.
No objection.
In which case, I know what's said. I cannot have some sympathy for residents if they're not affected. It becomes difficult to argue when there's already a licensed premises in the centre of town for those hours. So, on that basis, shall we say no objection? Councillor Clark, which is recorded
Chinese
stuff.
restaurant is closed, so that's one licensed premises in the
Yeah.
road that's closed. So, you know,
It's true, I mean, it may reopen, I suppose, as a restaurant with some restriction.
that was closed at the moment.
Yes, that's certainly closed. Shall we say there is no objection, but shall we record that councillors Clark and Shearer did object?
I mean, if the Rose and Crown have to license until, sorry, when did you say the licenses?
So,
They're open till 11 o'clock every day, apart from Friday and Saturday when they're open till midnight.
Oh, until midnight. Well, in which case then it's comparable.
Yeah.
So that's get the word parity in there.
Okay, I think that has to be no objection.
Yes. Sorry,
Right, no, that's fine. I really don't know how to tackle this next bit. The school has this programme of works, and it's pretty lengthy, to say the least.
tree officer.
Everybody's had a chance to look through it. It runs through some
Yeah.
4.5 pages. And some of it is obviously tree husbandry, some of it is actually the removal of various trees in various locations and so on. I doubt that we would have any great issues around things that are plainly tree husbandry following on normal policy. However, there are a number of trees to be removed in the area of the gas going, and
or somewhere else.
That seems to be mainly where they're going
There's
to be
another
going.
one. There's another one.
There is at
The Beresford.
there is at least one at
The Beresford, and 37 Westwood, the Limes.
Some of these are also what are called 5-day notice ones. In other words, they simply have to give notice that they're going to do it, and in reality, we're in no position to say anything else, and it will be down to the tree officer to presumably intervene if he felt there was a reason to. I should perhaps have declared another interest in myself, and as much as my daughter's house in North Street backs onto the Gascoigne car park area. I have no idea whether any of those trees that they're talking about are in that area. I know that she has complained to Tottenham School because the trees are extremely high, towering over the property and leaving in a lot of shade, and were they to fall, they would cause a huge amount of damage, not least because the garden area is at a considerably lower height. However, I just don't know whether those trees do or don't, but they're talking about removing on that area or not. Or we simply leave the whole lot to the tree officer.
Well,
Councillor Schumer, and then Councillor Flynn.
I think leaving it to the tree officer is a good way forward. I certainly, when it's about, you mentioned the term husbandry, but when it's about essentially pruning and lopping the crowns in order to ensure better growth, etc., again, we would never normally object to anything like that in the conservation area. What I do wonder slightly is, or what I have slight concerns about, is the removal of trees altogether when it's not clear, at least I couldn't see within the applications, plural, what the purpose of removing the trees are. Keeping trees healthy and in good order, no problem. But taking them out when it's not clear why they're being taken out, when they're in the conservation area, I slight concerns about. And I know it's very different, but you will know that in full council, we've discussed about losing trees in other parts of the parish. Why should this be treated very differently? So we've got multiple applications. Essentially what I'm saying is, if it's about tree maintenance, I really don't have a problem. If it's about taking trees out altogether, I'd kind of like to know the reason why.
I think one of the difficulties is there is that, I think it's a 5-year tree maintenance sort of program that the school had, and I think we did have access to it a little while ago. And it may be that the trees that are referred to in here are referred to in that, and it may be that there are explanations. But it's stunningly difficult to marry everything up.
Yeah, that's the problem we're having.
And I could easily do it, and I just didn't have the time to sort of try and find everything and try and work it all out. Councillor Fuller.
I'm with Councillor Schumer here, Max. But I think we could ask the tree officer to pay particular attention. I mean, we'd still refer everything to the tree officer. So if we're going to be saying fine about crowns and stuff like that, fine. But I think for removable trees, we could say pay particular attention to removable trees. And if you are happy, well, if he's happy, we'd be happy with it anyway. So it's just pointing them in the right direction. Please look at this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. And if you approve of it, we will follow your approval.
And that also indicates that we would be actually supporting the tree officer if he were to object.
Yes.
Not that we might have said, yes, we don't mind.
Yes.
Which, but
Yes, we would really be sort of echoing Councillor Schumer's point.
Yeah, I'd be happy.
In relation to those trees that it is proposed to remove, we would ask the tree officer to consider whether the removal is necessary or appropriate. And if the tree officer deems that it is, then we don't object, and if he takes a different view, we would support his view for the retention of trees.
Yeah.
Does that
So we
summarise?
agree with that, yes.
I think that's consistent with the
You
policy.
could also go add to it, because that would be in line with how the council feels that we are really against removing trees, rather than having a devil may care approach.
It does say that some of the removals are the horrid ones, so they're kind of already on the way out.
Yeah.
Yes, there are some.
We rely on the tree officer.
Yes, it doesn't say anything about that one.
And that's the issue. I mean, to be fair to school, you know, they've clearly put an awful lot of work into their tree surveys.
We wouldn't be spending money without due course, I would have thought.
Am I able to comment or am I not able to comment now? I'm probably not.
I don't see why not, we don't have disclosable peculiar interest in it, so I have made it clear to everybody that you.
One of the applications in particular, looking at trees 17, 12, 14, 23, 24, 29, 30, 32, 34,
Which one is that?
35. The one around 8 Bramston Close.
Is this the room of Bramston House?
No, Bramston Close, so it's on South Road. It's the one.
Oh, yeah, I got that. 8 Bramston Close, yeah?
That's the one. The report suggests, I can't remember the wording. The aim of the proposed work is to improve the local amenity by providing those trees which should be retained with more space to develop and thrive, sounds lovely, as well as abate an existing inconvenience or nuisance and seek to prevent the development of a third future inconvenience or nuisance, which again seems good. But it's the one area of land that in the last 6 months has been fenced off, gated off, away from usage, and it's in a large area of land that might be considered to be good for development. So maybe there's just a concern that that parcel in particular, we would like the tree officer's view as to whether the proposed scheme of works is likely to deliver local immunity as promised.
Fair. It's what we're saying, though, he's got to check every single one of these removing trees.
I think we can make that very clear and make it abundantly clear that we don't normally agree with removal unless there is a good reason, and preferably where replanting takes place.
What would you call a good reason? Because that's
I'm not-
much too easy for them to misinterpret.
Well, a reason that in the eyes of an expert such as the tree officer is a good reason. Which would usually, I suppose, be to do with whether the tree is posing a hazard or whether it is diseased or dead or whatever.
Yeah, therefore you need to indicate that's a bit good enough. When somebody might want the trees to not be there because it would give them more availability to the land.
Yeah, we're not talking about a good reason in view of the tree officer, but I can make that. I can make it a lot more clear. I can't remember which was first. I'll go to Councillor Shura and then Councillor.
Okay, so having listened to all of this, to me it's actually relatively straightforward. None of us around the table are arboreal specialists, we're not tree specialists. We refer it to the tree officer if they feel that it's in the tree's interest to be removed or to be pruned or whatever, then we just simply go with their better knowledge. It's as simple as that.
I'm just wondering if the provision would be that if the tree officer felt that there's a tree that we wanted to discuss, he should bring it back to the next meeting. I'm not sure if that's valid or not, because I think we should trust our tree officer, as you said about
I think it's unlikely that they would in effect defer
the decision.
consideration just to come back to us.
Let's
Because
just
the tree officers
They'll
providing us with advice, because it's really the tree officer.
make the decision. That's what we always say, the first tree officer. There you go.
I think I've got a feel for that.
Surely,
that's in essence the last substantive application we're looking at, because what we see next are the schools redevelopment of the old primary school site, where they're asking for the discharge of certain conditions, which are, in a sense, is something of a technicality. Either the local authority will be satisfied the conditions should be discharged, and if they don't think they should be discharged, they'll go back to the school and explain why and what they need to do to get discharged. And in essence, the same is true in relation to the St Christopher's Drive development. So that's really just there for information purposes, and we'll just keep an eye on how those things go.
Okay.
There was a single planning application considered. It was 23 Gathering Road, which brings us on to the update request for a meeting with RMP. Any updates? There is no update.
Have you had a response from that other email?
Did you resend the email?
No, in fact, you did. I didn't, it was on our board.
Okay. No,
I
until
thought you came
tomorrow.
back to me and said, I'm sure you said you'd done it.
Okay. I can chase up.
I could do it now though, because you sent me another email address, didn't you? After the meeting.
I leave it for the two of you to liaise, and somebody will chase up the MP to see if we can do anything for getting this meeting organised. On which note, we've already reached any of the relevant matters for reports. Councillor Chesser, Councillor Shaw, Councillor Webb, Councillor Clark. Councillor Finn. Don't think I do either. Lisa, is there anything else that needs to be brought to our attention? In which case, after 45 minutes, I declare the meeting closed.
Well done. Thank you, everybody.